Good day, dear students. Today, we are going to talk about interpretation at negotiations. As you know, there are different diversity of thoughts, diversity of ideas that will lead to different kind of conflicts. The conflicts are needed in negotiations, are solved in negotiations. What is negotiation? So let's talk about it. In order to avoid conflict situations, sometimes we have to use negotiations. It is a method by which people settle differences. It's a process by which compromise or agreement is reached while avoiding argument and dispute. This is called negotiations. It is a dialogue between two or more people or parties intended to reach a beneficial outcome. Beneficial outcome for all parties. Two or more parties exchange goods or services and attempt to agree on the exchange rate for them to gain advantage for an individual or a collective. Negotiation is not a zero-sum game. If there is no compromise, the negotiations have failed. It is an open process for two parties to find an acceptable solution to a complicated conflict. Negotiation involves three basic elements: process, behavior, and substance. Process, that means beginning till the ending, while behavior, that means how to behave during the negotiations. And the last one is substance. Substance, what just the parties negotiate over. Some parts add to this persuasion or an influence in order to solve the solution, to solve the problem, to just gain the aim of the negotiation or conflict. In order to achieve results, negotiation requires some kind of skills, establishing subordinate goal and to achieve the goal. So, for effective negotiations, some techniques are used, and we can see on the screen the following. The first one is low-risk negotiation techniques, where you have to be flattery, addressing gently, or keeping silence in order to achieve your aim. This is called low risk. So, just you try to risk or just to avoid from conflict using flattery or words or being silent. Second one is high risk negotiation techniques, where unexpected temper loses. Erupting in anger can break and lead opponents to be angry. Bulwarism. This is a highly aggressive strategy that may also produce anger and frustration in the opponent. Good cop and bad cop, that means tough just party followed by kind party. And sometimes kind party or kind person sometimes may follow after the tough one, agreeing, just negotiating with that person. There are even guidelines if, when, and how to use alcohol in negotiation. There is some kind of nuances when to use alcoholic drink. When we speak about types of negotiators, they can be soft, hard, and principled bargainers. They may be very kind and they want to lead something to solve the problem, maintain good relations with the fellow negotiators. They want to be friends. Their goal is agreement, and they avoid some kind of contents. While hard bargainers, just they insist on their one single answer should be decided. Whether their formula is whether I or you, me or you. They are just aggressive. And what about principled bargainers? They seek integrative solution. They focus on problem rather than intentions or motives. They think about both sides. They avoid from pressure. They just lead to negotiation, agreement, compromise. These are principled negotiators. They are professionals. They lead the compromise, just the conflict to the compromise and to negotiation. Now let's talk about interpreters at negotiations. So you see, we have talked about different kind of types of negotiations. So how to behave during these negotiations. Success of you depends on just the right choice of the interpreter and accuracy of interpretation. First of all, they have to choose a right interpreter during negotiations. If they choose proper or right interpreter, they will succeed. I mean the concern to the parties. So negotiation can be on the project, joint project, or some discussion or prejudicial settlements or some kind of court issues. So negotiation with signing of documents can be according to the meaning of negotiations. They have to choose interpreters. And when we speak about duration, it may just last from 30 minutes up to 2 hours or from several days. So according to the duration of the negotiations, you have to choose the interpreter. And of course, when we speak about locations, it can be any kind of hotels or airport or conference or forum lobbies. Of course, they can be held in your country or in a foreign country. So it depends where the situations or negotiations are held. When we speak about types of interpreter, consecutive interpreters are required because especially negotiations generally are held between just private and just business companies, while simultaneous translation is required in international organization and diplomatic meetings. So business negotiations are often held in private, so consecutive interpretation is required. Negotiating can be within two cultures, different cultures, and the interpreter should know or should get acquainted with the culture of two or both languages. If the two sides are schooled in English-speaking countries, it will be easy to solve the problem and it will be easy for the interpreter. No showing off is advised to both sides, to negotiators, and they are advised to keep simple sentences. KISS method is just advised. If they keep simple sentence, it will be easy for interpreters. They should help each interpreter to express their idea, to give the meaning in the target language. They should speak slowly, using short sentences, avoiding different jargons and metaphors, and so on. So, sometimes two-side interpreters are used or one-side interpreters are used. If you are hiring an interpreter from the country in which you are conducting, you should check the translation concerning to the references, because language just verifies from country to country. Brief the interpreter. They should give some information before the meeting, before the negotiations. So you shouldn't speak so much in order not to just confuse the interpreter. Speak simply, and as well as no opinion of interpreter is required. Even that interpreter understands that people are speaking wrongly, they shouldn't give their own opinions, because they are not asked to give opinions. They are asked to translate the meaning. Sometimes they need some brief, some break. Time by time, interpreter should be given break, for time for rest. And of course, they should be treated, they should be respected as a human being. They are valuable and essential tools for both sides, and they should be treated with respect. Don't forget, errors in translation of peacekeeping negotiations can have a dramatic and costly impact on international relations. So you have no right to make mistakes in your speech. Some people may not hire interpreter as they know both languages. Sometimes stress may increase their thinking ability, and that's why they advise to negotiators to hire interpreter in different circumstances. In negotiations, it can be a written text to be translated, just law, legal paper, press release, manuals, medical textbook, or historical, some kind of agreements can be given to interpreter, translator, to translate them in written form. During interpreting, speakers stops every 5 minutes, and then interpreters will continue giving the meaning of the speech. Sometimes they use chuchotage or whisper translation. In negotiations, especially, translator sits near the negotiator and tries to whisper into his ears. Decisiveness is very important skill for interpreter. They should just choose very few words in order to give the meaning in a short period of time. They have no right to ask several times the original language sentence, and that's why they should decide what to say in a short period of time. The intelligence, personality, and the smartness of interpreter is very important. That will lead you to success. Up-to-date telephone conversations are becoming more common. Here, they may hire online interpreter, and so negotiation can take place directly or indirectly via phone, Skype, and other technical means. Here, interpreters are hired just via internet, and they will just offer their service. Stress and tolerance of interpreter is very important, because while negotiation, two sides may become aggressive, and of course it will affect the interpreters. Here they should stay stable, they should have self-control and continue translation of the sentences. Negotiators should avoid some metaphors, jargons, as well as they should just specify some details correctly, numbers, proper names, in order to help interpreters. If interpreters are involved in a short period of time in urgent matters, they should quickly, as soon as possible, get information about the meeting they are going to. Even going by taxi, they should search internet, get full information about the meeting, because in a short period of time they may lose themselves, they may lose the control. And the next advice is not to eat during the meetings, not to have a drink during the meetings, because different kind of negotiations may be held at the table. Of course, invisibility is very important. They may take a glass of champagne, but only sipping. They should pretend as if they are drinking, but shouldn't drink, because drinking alcoholic drink will drop their voice down, and they will control themselves, their feelings. As well as if the meetings are held at the restaurants or cafe, beforehand the professional interpreter should get to know much information about the restaurant, about the music. Even they should not order some kind of meal, cheapest or expensive meal. And concerning to the history of restaurants, they should get to know before the meeting. You should first of all read the agenda and look through the places where you will take the guests, whether you're going to take them to theaters or cinema or museum or just ballet and so on. Beforehand, you should get to know all information, necessary information about the background of the place. Try to stay in the shadows without showing your leadership character. Sometimes professional translators can be a professional assistant. They should prepare all documentation, prepare papers, take care of numbers, organizations, and so on. They will not act as a translator as well as just assistant translator. According to the rules of etiquette, the number of translators is agreed in advance. A foreign party can come to negotiate with their own interpreter. But if the receiving party asks for the opinion of their translator on the issue, in most cases, translators will prefer to work alone. They don't want any kind of interpreter to come from outside. The interpreter should be on the left side of the head of the delegation, next to or slightly behind his speaker. You can see on the screen samples or just improvement of my speech. If the interpreter's service are not required during a conversation at the table, he is seated in another place. He leaves the center table and so far behind he can wait for his turn, for his just act. If there is pause between the conversation, interpreter shouldn't fill it with his own opinion, with his own ideas. And hands should be on the table in calm position. It's forbidden to even turn the hand during negotiations. So the rules on the screen you can see, and tips for interpreters. Just establish friendly atmosphere, and then they should help out of the official situation to the speakers. Thank you. That was all for today. Thank you very, very much.